Hi, everybody. We have a nice crowd on here already. Ted Ryman in Cape Town in South Africa. Ed Worley down in SoCal. Cheers to you both. Christopher and Jane Gillingham in the Western Solent in the UK. Hello to you all. Alistair Murray down in Melbourne, where it's Saturday morning at what? 06:01. He's up early. As usual, Fritz Mueller in Miami. Carlos Aviz in Brasilia, the capital of that great country of Brazil. Sean Hogue, we haven't seen Sean in a while. Good morning from Melbourne, Saturday morning there as well. Warren Schasser in Brisbane. Boy, the Aussies are up early, Julia.
They are.
Let's get this one through the starting line. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Bill Wingrove at Davis Island Yacht Club in Tampa, Florida. Mark Wharton Reed in Chicago. He's been up in Mackinac on the island. As we get our show number 650 underway, Julie, can you believe it?
No.
Seems like only yesterday it was 500. Mm-hmm. And we talked about, maybe we ought to call it a day and not do any more of these. And it's 150 shows later. Right?
You just can't stop. That's the problem.
The coordinating producer of the Beach Street, of Sailing Illustrated, the Sailing Illustrated show, and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, the esteemed Julia Vadekent, my dear friend and landlady. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. We are live again here at Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club for our 650th show. And we're delighted to have you all with us. Steve Grubers says it's fall-like in Connecticut. Don Lunabos is up in Sonoma. 650 is also an area code, as Don would know. In fact, my telephone number is in area code 650. Has been my mobile phone for years.
Because?
Well, when we came back I was starting to commute back and forth from Spain and Germany even, and was doing stuff down in San Diego.
Yeah.
For the leading up to the 2010 Cup. And in those days, sounds like a long time, it wasn't that long ago, you couldn't get a cell phone unless you had an American address. So I had a friend who lived in area code 650 who said, you can use my address. And that was 650, which is down in the peninsula.
Yep.
Down in Mountain View or Palo, I can't remember, one of those towns down there. So that's how I have 650. Gordon Smith is, he's been with James Pleasance at the Royal Danish Yacht Club, and he did record a hard-hitting interview today, and Tom, I got it, but I haven't had time to edit it and get it online, so we'll use that. Gordon, as I texted you just ahead of the show, we'll do that with you and James, thanks to you both, for Tuesday's show. The Fuzzy Fuzzy checking on board from Connecticut, and many other. Andrew Pindar, hello, Andrew, from all of our last day in the wonderful mountains of how do you say that, Julia?
I can't see it.
Haute Savoie. It's in the comments.
Savoie.
Haute Savoie. I don't know. You're the French speaker. In particular, the Chamonix.
Yeah.
Chamonix, right? Valley. And Clark Chapin. Tomorrow may be the last hurrah for the venerable ancient PYC signal boat. That's our pontoon boat that you saw in that opening slide where the starting line goes. Maybe they're going to haul it out and maybe replace it next year. It must be getting on to 50 years for that. Steel pontoons, not glass, not aluminum. I'm pretty sure it's a steel pontoon boat, isn't it, Clark?
It'll last forever.
Well, it requires a lot of painting, and they've been gifted. Look at that. We've been gifted a newer and larger boat, albeit with a motor that is not currently functioning. Jeff Kitson in Michigan. Oh, Jeff, the great state of Michigan. Sean Hogan is just back from the 2.4 meter Worlds in Finland. How'd you do, Sean? Nice to get over there and sail on that.
I love Finland. Yeah.
Don's in area code 707. This show is 650. Yeah, it is our 650th show. We're very proud of that. We're proud to have all of you as friends, as foes. And I did a little look back in preparing today's show. I went all the way back to show number 1, which is, we started doing those. We've talked about this before, those, Julia, those pre-shows for the 2017 America's Cup, when we realized the television would go live, 2 or 3 minutes before the racing started.
Right.
And there was a pre-show down in New Zealand that somebody was sponsoring, and they were watching it in New Zealand. But as far as I know, the rest of the world didn't have a lead-up show.
Right.
So you and I had the brainwave, and Meg was around then, to go live 20 minutes, 30 minutes before.
Right.
I remember laying in bed and preparing the show and saying, we ought to go live with this.
Yeah.
And then went out in what was then Studio A.
Studio A, yep.
Right, our living room.
And a handy iPhone.
And just an iPhone on a tripod. And you sat there and were reading the comments on your iPhone. I was just trying to figure out how to do this. But that was our show number 1 on the 2nd of June, 2017. And it was a pre-show for what was still the Challenger Selection Series. I guess that was the Louis Vuitton Cup. It wasn't yet the Prada Cup, was it? In 2017? Nope. I don't remember. And that's what it looked like in front of the big screen TV. It doesn't look that big. I guess it's 55 inches. It's grown now to 65. Or show number 1, the 2nd of June, which was, as I said, a pre-show for the America's Cup. Later that year, in 2017, Julie, remember this? The Rolex Sydney to Hobart yacht race, and we had Clark and Dick Anderson, Clark Chapin on the right there. We coordinated the green shirt and the red shirt, port and starboard. And we did that mock protest hearing coming out of that collision in the first leg out to the heads in Sydney Harbor. And those guys, Clark and Dick, took on the roles. I don't even remember now, but I know I've now sent. We told you on the show before that the jury themselves were watching because they hadn't quite heard the protest yet. It was, I think, either that evening or the next day. And I remember being down at the house in San Diego when we did this, and that show almost immediately overnight had 2,700 views, 2.7 thousand views. I was looking at that.
I remember it was a lot. I don't remember.
And the numbers keep going up because people do go back and they look at stuff. And even that's the beauty of both YouTube and Facebook. So thanks to Dick and Clark for doing that. And of course, they were right. They came out with the right, or you all were the jury. You all made the right decision. And they presented the case. Each of them argued the respective sides of the case. And then you all made the decision, and also then decided that who was it? Waxy was guilty. Was it Waxy? I think it was. And then you also, the Fozy, the viewers, decided what the penalty should be.
And it was not.
I think you decided it should be a half an hour. You were more lenient than the jury, and the jury turned out to give them an hour penalty, right? Yep. Was that it?
I think so.
Huh?
I think that's right.
I think so too. I from memory. That's so long ago. That's 2017. It's hard to believe, 6 years ago. Right? I can still do math in my head. Then I fast forward to show number 150. I looked through several shows, but here we are in Studio B where we're sitting now. Julie, of course, by then had become the coordinating producer, and she was on the camera and live and watching. See, she's got the comments in her left hand, and she's got the computer also. She worked the comments both on her computer and in her hand, and you can't quite see it, but around the corner behind my big monitor, she's got a show monitor so she can see what we're airing. But it was a rather more modest setup, but it worked fine. It was okay.
Yeah.
As the technology got better, we could stream from a desktop computer, and we did it. We had an old iMac, like a 20-something, 15 iMac.
Mine.
No, that was mine. That was my 27-inch. It wasn't one of yours. You still got your 15, your iMac up there. But Julian, as she retires, we got some of her computers in here now. Well, this one is actually one of her, over here is one of her computers. That computer on her desk is also on her computers. So and she's got another beautiful computer upstairs and back and forth. Meantime, we have some super good, a Mac Studio and a Mac Mini that over here behind that run the show now. But that's what it looked like back at our show number 150. And then this is what the show actually looked like. Show number 500. Well, this is now the 500th show when we really did talk about calling this off. We had a Zoom call in. People made very kind, many of you zoomed in and made kind comments. We were calling correct Crutonic in those days, K or K, the German spelling. And this was after the outbreak of war between Russia and Ukraine. And we asked the question, should World Sailing act to ban Russian-owned yachts? We hadn't really, Belarusian yachts weren't on our radar screen yet. Mm-hmm. And they still didn't know where the cup was going to be. And the government declined the Spanish government declined to finance Malaga as a venue. And remember the Kiwi home defense? That was in full swing. Mark Dunphy had been on the show a couple times, Hamish Ross. Mm-hmm. And we were saying that's when our show, I see down at the bottom of that slide,
Yeah.
we were using cogito ergo sum,
Yes.
sum,
Yeah.
which means
I think, therefore, I am.
well done. Exactly right. And we might go back to that now that we're getting older, and I don't know if we think so well. But here's what the show looked like. We were still in those days counting down the few seconds and then using that opening day ceremony at Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron with a big cannon. And there is a photo that looks like the Ukrainian flag.
Mhm.
And this is the start to show number 500. I'll run it here for a few seconds. I'm not going to run much of it. It really seems only like yesterday,
Yes.
especially with the pandemic intervening.
Yeah.
We started this 5 years ago in June, right?
Yeah.
5 years ago in June, we started doing those pre-shows for the America's Cup, for the Bermuda America's Cup, and everybody said, well, this is a good idea. Why don't you do, after the Cup's over, why don't you do some more?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but we've now
500 later.
500 later.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to TFE Live, our show. So you can see that doesn't look that much different from what we're doing now. Computers are in a little different place. The mixer over here. Julia's got a different chair now than she did then. But we did this. I'd completely forgotten this, Julia. We did this show on Monday because you were going into the Horse Pistol
Oh, yeah.
for a tune-up. There you are. I trust you're well.
I am.
Now, do you want to explain now why we are doing the 500th show today and not tomorrow?
Yes, because I've been called to get a tune-up.
You're having a tune-up.
Yeah,
So you're going into hospital tomorrow.
that's correct.
So that's why we moved the 500th show today. We're still going to do a show tomorrow.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, Julia, that you can see behind me in that shot is the trimaran from 2010, and I'm thinking I might move that back here behind me in place of the this bridge shot, the painting by Jimmy DeWitt, the late great Jim DeWitt. Our lower thirds were orange. That was only 150 shows ago, and not much has changed since then. But those are some of the friends that were on for that 500th show, including Mary Jude Szymanski, and there's Hamish in the lower right, and of course there was Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. I think we can lose that now, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's not much change, 150 shows, and of course we're doing 2 shows a week nominally. So in a year, it's 100 shows, give or take. And we've been through the pandemic together. We've been through now the Ukrainian war and this Russian thing, and people in the U.S. are getting weary of it and tired of it.
Yes.
Sending tens of billions of dollars after tens of billions of dollars for a war that I think could have been, I'm no Putin apologist,
Yeah.
and I think the guy's a massive crouton, but I think we also ought not to be fighting a proxy war with him. We ought to sort it out, but that's just my simple view. I don't know. What's your view? Now that we're talking politics.
I always think there must have been a better way out.
I hope there still is. I hope there still is, and we don't talk politics on here too often. Maybe sailing politics we do. I think we helped bring down the Secretary General in the meantime of World Sailing, the non-sailing Croutonic CEO, whatever his title was. Lots of great memories, Ed Worley is saying. And Hamish is in Cattle Flat, New Zealand. Huh. Okay. And Andrew Pindar, they're back and forth. Fosey says a 25-year-old son, George, ran. Oh, yeah. Andrew's son ran this ultra marathon. I don't know what the hell it is, 102 kilometers, but it's the elevation in that run. It took about 16 hours. I saw some pictures on your Facebook, Andrew, about that. Congratulations to your son, George, and to anyone else who finished that
Dares
race.
do that. Yeah.
Make Putin walk the plank, Ted Ryman is saying down there. Stingray, we have to support Ukraine. Putin will not stop at destroying Ukraine. Yeah, I think there are lots of problems in Ukraine too, Stingray, but let's not get into that, shall we not? Yeah, we have supported Ukraine, and we don't like anybody who is
waging a war aggressively.
Yeah, who they invaded the country, but there are lots of problems. So let's get to happier things. We helped Poland when Hitler invaded. How is this different? again, I think there are some differences, but we shall. Let's not rewrite history, and let's carry on with what we are celebrating this month. Thanks for that comment, though, Julie Ahrens. Ukraine needs support. Gordon Smith agrees with Stingray. I agree Ukraine needs support, but I think the war needs to be ended. I think we, the U.S. and the other Western democracies, could force an end to this war. We really wanted to. My concern, Julia, sorry, last thing I'm going to say, unless you want the final word, I'm just worried that as President Eisenhower, General President Eisenhower warned us in the 50s, beware the military-industrial complex. And it seems to me here, sitting here in San Francisco, this liberal bastion that are also quite supportive of the war here, most of our friends and neighbors here in San Francisco. But it seems to me like the politicians are being given lots of contributions from the military-industrial complex. Politicians are supporting the war, and the military-industrial complex is printing money. I mean, they're just making money hand over fist. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, you're right, unfortunately.
Best support sailing. Meanwhile, back to sailing. Thanks, Jeff Kitson. Thanks, Clayton Embley. Spot on, Tom. And we'll see how that all works out, but hopefully it sorts out sooner than later. Sooner than later. I don't like. It's interesting. I can't help myself. It's interesting how it used to be the left in this country who were anti-war, and they were certainly strongly anti-Vietnam War, and now it tends to be the left who's so supportive of this war. And the argument is, we don't stop Putin in Ukraine, he's going to roll over Western Europe, which, it's not going to happen. And now it's the conservative, it's the right that is more or less, and becoming more so every day, anti-war. So
yeah,
okay,
accountability.
Enough, enough. What are we celebrating this month, Julia?
Well,
who is that? Who are those men from down under? That is the crew of Australia 2.
Yeah.
They hadn't won the cup yet, but they won another race. This nice photo I had never seen from the National Museum of Australia. And we were in the midst 40 years ago of that series. That is race 3 when Liberty beat Australia 2 and went up. It's race 4. They went up 3-1. And then on today, the 22nd, is when Australia 2 tied the series up at 3-3. And it was the 22nd, and of course, there were a couple days intervening because Liberty called a day off, and then, as Ed Worley and others of you will recall, the wind went light. They tried to get a race off, I think it was on the 24th, and it didn't happen. So it was the 25th, which is our show next Tuesday. We'll be right on spot on that anniversary date of the Australia 2 win when they won 4-3 40 years ago. So just a little revisit of this. On the 22nd, it's when they tied it up 3-3. And 4 days later, on the 26th, I think it was 26th of September. That's a day after Meg's birthday. 2 decades later, but 3 decades later, 2 decades later. So that's how I remember that. But I can never remember that if it's the 25th or the 26th. And here is the trailer for this video. We haven't shown it on here because it's a Netflix video, and it showed up a year ago, September of last year. But here's the trailer to that video about the win in 1983 by the Aussies, breaking the longest winning streak in sports.
Defenders of the America's Cup. They oozed style, wealth, this unbeatableness.
The US had never lost. It was the longest winning streak in sporting history for 132 years. There's no question the emerging force was Dennis Conner. I was the best sailor in the world.
He will do anything to win.
We slaughtered him.
3, 2, 1.
It was time that we had to do something radical.
It's a huge commitment. We had to believe ourselves that we belong on the world stage.
I hadn't been the navigator on any boat.
But we were there for one reason, to win.
All the work that we had done had paid huge dividends. And we came out all guns blazing.
What Australians really like is upsetting the upper echelon.
The whole of the world was watching this.
The greatest yacht race of the century.
Never seen anything like this.
And a little country called Australia had the audacity to think that we could do it.
Untold, the Race of the Century, that's that Netflix show that I'm sure many of you by now have watched. And at some point, maybe when it's a little longer in the tooth, we'll do a watch party on here, Julia, to watch it together and get your comments. But yeah, people are helping me out with this was the day, the 22nd, that it got tied up. The 23rd was it a scheduled lay day? I can't remember. 24th, I think there was no wind, or at some point Liberty called a lay day, and I guess some of you are saying that was on the 25th. And we're spending half of or less what we spent. Yeah, okay, Stingray. Back on the war. Let's get off the war. I carried on too long. I apologize. Depending upon your perspective, it might not be celebrating, meaning celebrating this win. But
our loss.
I think most everybody, it was the New York Yacht Club's loss, America's loss.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing that's happened to the Cup, arguably. I mean, it would have gotten boring if it just carried on in Newport year after year after year in 12s or in whatever kinds of boats. But it was, what other comments? The Shorty Shorts crew, Rick Banner. Oh, yeah. Liberty called a lay day, Bill Wingrove is saying, on the 25th, looking at the weather. So race 7 was on the 26th. Okay, so that's how that worked. And Steve Groover agreeing. And Julie Aaron's commenting that next Tuesday is Tom Kippur. But it was, and I think it was smart by Liberty to do it. And Ed Worley is preparing for us one of his look backs, his trivia quizzes for the FOSI. And remember, Liberty was also, unbeknownst to everybody, including the other American defenders, New York Yacht Club was allowing them to change their certificate day to day.
Yes.
By putting in more lead if it was going to be windy, taking more lead out if it was going to be light, adjusting the length of their spinnaker pole and their foot on the mainsail, or the I can't remember what the other parameters were. Mm-hmm. And nobody knew it, and that confused the hell out of the other defenders. Tom Blockaller was vociferous.
Yes, he was.
And we then outlawed all that afterwards in subsequent America's Cups because it was so confusing to everybody. But it was a good strategy, and it was smart of Dennis to have figured that out, Dennis, Tom, John Marshall, that they could do that. Mm-hmm. And they called the lay day. They towed the boat up. They remeasured, took some lead out, and it looked like they were going to win that 7th race until that final downwind leg. It was triangle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on the 5th leg, which was the downwind leg, the old Olympic course, triangle windward, leeward, windward.
Yeah.
And that's when, of course, they were passed by Australia too. People blame Dennis for not covering, but Dennis was ahead at that top mark by what? 20, 30, 40 seconds. He had a pretty good lead. I was the closest human being to that race on the bow of what was the jury boat. And it was, I still think they did the right thing on Liberty. I have no need to defend Dennis and Tom and the rest of the gang, but they knew Australia 2 was significantly faster in those conditions downwind. And they said, we better go search for some wind or a different wind or a shift. And they did rather than covering. And of course, they've been pilloried ever since for not covering. But, those legs were long. Those weren't just short legs.
I know. It's
that was a 24.3 mile total course, course length. So, and that was a brutal, excruciatingly difficult leg to watch for everybody, television or otherwise.
Yeah.
But brilliantly sailed by Australia too. And then, frankly, they were just quicker downwind, and that is the decisive moment on the 26th of September, 1983, when Australia 2 did cross ahead of Liberty, later named, jokingly but not so much, Liberdog. That's what the
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, it was the internal. That's what the crew called it. So next Tuesday, the 26th, we will celebrate. And we will. I think everybody, it was a moment to behold. It was the breaking of the 132-year hegemony, the longest winning streak in sports. New York Yacht Club held the trophy, as you all know, from 1851 until that fateful day in 1983. And by the way, one of the things not talked about much is the fact that the New York Yacht Club in 1970, after years of pressure from challengers, notably Baron Marcel Beek, the French, he wanted to have multiple challengers, starting in 64, and they wouldn't let him. 67, he tried again. Finally, in 70, New York relented, and there was a runoff. Was it 67 or 70? I think it was 70, between the French and the Aussies. The Aussies went on to win them, but only 13. Now that you got multiple challengers and a challenger selection series, which was formalized in 1983 as the Louis Vuitton Cup, when Bruno Troublé had the bright idea to let's get a sponsor and let's make this a real regatta. Only 13 years after that first multiple challenger event, it was 1970 from memory, you had now 7 challengers and only 3 defenders. So the competitive weight had shifted. New York always had 2, 3, 4 defenders vying all summer to see who was going to go against the single challenger who maybe had a trial horse, maybe didn't. But they just, New York's boats tuned up against one another and got better and better, whereas the challenger kind of struggled along. And you look from what happened in 1958, the first of these 12-meter events, and when New York just waxed, who was it? The squadron, Royal Yacht Squadron, the first 12-meter event, and 4-0, and the times, the deltas are just horrific, minutes, dozens of minutes. But now you've got these 7 clubs, and good clubs: Royal Perth, Royal Burnham, Royal Vic, Royal Yacht Club of Victoria, which is another Aussie, not Royal Vic up in Canada. YCCS, the Aga Khan's Club, doing their first America's Cup Challenge. Yacht Club de France, Bruno Troublé. Secret Co, they weren't so good, but they was good. They were there. Terry McLaughlin, not the first Canadian challenge, by the way. It was the first Canadian challenge was back in the if Hamish Ross is watching, the 1880s. And the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. So the Aussies had 3 boats. Advance, Australia, Challenge were the names of those 3 boats and kind of the name of the consortium. And the strength of those 7 teams put the balance of power in the 1983 CSS, as we used to call it, Challenger Selection Series, became known as the Louis Vuitton Cup until Prada took over, last time, 2021. Did Prada take over in 2021? So that's going to be our show on Tuesday. We're going to focus almost exclusively. We're going to run something from that women's match racing event in Denmark because Gordon Smith's been working on that with James Pleasance. We'll have probably 1 or 2 other things. But the big focus will be on the 40th anniversary of that win in 1983. There will be no show, just a program note here, there'll be no show next Friday. I am up at the Stag Cruise, the St. Francis Yacht Club, helping with certain elements of the Stag Cruise. And I'll be glad when that's done. Herding cats is my job.
Yes, you're doing such a good job.
No, it's the 5th time, and 5th time's the charm. And I mean, I'm producing the members show, which is a Friday night, and it involves 50 some odd people, cast and crew, and lots of moving parts, and it's great fun. But it's enough's enough. This will be my last time doing this, right, Julia?
I'll believe it when I see it.
Right?
I'll believe it when I see it.
But it's going to be great fun. As a result, no show next Friday. Long story short, no show next Friday, a week from today. Let's get to John's report. He actually filed it this morning. He was at the farm. He's now either driving back to Weymouth or is already back to his home in Weymouth. The Coach's Corner with our super Posey John Emmett and his report from the farm earlier today.
Good morning, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. For those folks at home, please remember to follow, like, and share. I hope the show is particularly useful. And now we're in the final countdown to Olympic Games for me. It's particularly important, and we also have things like the Sail GP and of course the America's Cup just around the corner. Time flies when you're having fun. You can probably tell from my background, I'm here at the farm. Come back to look at my mum, and I'm filming this actually in the morning because we've had some very wet and windy days here in the UK. In fact, the last 3 days were write-off, so that's whether you're trying to do work on the farm or whether you're trying to go sailing. So a bit of time at home and looking after those core values, very important. But this is, after all, a sailing show, and as I said at the top, we're really in the final countdown to Olympic Games. Now, for some people, this is all about trying to get Olympic medals, which could be 4, 8, 12 years work. For other people, just to get to Olympic Games is a life-changing experience, and especially for those emerging nation sailors, maybe that experience to go back and pass that information back to their home countries, the love of sailing, how you train, and to build sailing really as a worldwide sport. It's also a time of a lot of change. You saw what's happened with sort of team leaders, head coaches, and various coaching staff. A lot of stuff changes in this final build-up. Everybody's looking for the magic pill, which is going to make everything right. Whereas a lot of the time, it's just hard work and dedication. And no doubt, if you had a superior athlete like Marek Baumeister, even without a coach, he's going to be, top 20 in the world. And for some of my EMP sailors with the best will in the world, they could have, either Michael Blackburn or whatever, but they wouldn't end up on a podium at Olympic Games. But it's about making the best of the situation, controlling the variables and doing everything you can. And as I said, now is the start of the Olympic qualification. The first event in the regional qualifiers is the Asian Games, which is why I'm really missing my lovely wife, Lily. We actually have the World Championships for the Ilka Sixes in Argentina, which is probably the worst place in the world to get to, more or less, from China, because it's the other side of the globe. It's 26 hours flying time, 2 days traveling. It's really hard on the mind and really hard on the body. And, Rio was tough. Lily had to fly home sometimes just to do things. And, that quick trip home, it cost weeks of training and a lot of focus. So I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I won't be meeting her in Argentina. But she's doing a fantastic job in Asia. So I know she's super busy because she's so hard to get hold of. And these regional games, for a lot of countries, are the best opportunity to qualify. So you'll have a number of classes there trying to qualify. The number of places depends on the class. So, for example, there's more places available, I believe, in the Ilka 6 than there is in the NACRA. So if you qualify at the regional games, for example, the Asian Games, and there's going to be one for every region, then you've got that place. And it means that when we come to the World Championships, anyone who's already got a place, whether it was from the previous World Championships or the regional games, they're put to one side, they're safe, and then the places roll on down, roll on down, roll on down, right down to their last chance regatta, which is really the final opportunity for anybody to get a place. And for that, they'll have 2 separate fleets, so you don't end up with people trying to qualify for Olympic Games being interfered with, if in the nicest way of putting it, with somebody who's already qualified. So that will be, probably tears at bedtime and tears of joy for a lot of people. But the regional games, they're best opportunity for a lot of people to qualify. So, an example, a lot of the African nations will just try and qualify through their regional games, and they won't necessarily attend the World Championships, an example, next year, just because the cost. And this idea of racing locally, it's a lot easier for Mongolia, for example, to get to Egypt than it would be to get to Australia. So yeah, I really encourage you guys to watch all the regional games. The Asian Games is on at the moment. For some people in Asia, this may be considered more important in a way than the Olympic Games, and those regional rivalries, they're really big. But I'm in the UK at the moment, so I should be able to join you on the show, no problem. And I, as always, look forward to all your comments. See you soon.
Fantastic. Another fan, and great perspective as always. I mean, but even more so today, I thought that was a particularly insightful report.
And we forget how much knowledge he gains because of all the places he is and all the places he knows.
Well, yeah, and everybody who moves around as much as he does, and I used to, thank God I don't have to anymore, but I forget about all the places and we've been, like you and your late husband, all the places you were, all the people we know, we've met. Look at all the people Alistair Murray knows from all around the world, from his Ronstand day job, and of course the Pindar, Andrews, Pindar and McIrvin, and on and on and on. John has sent me this picture. Yeah, he and I normally text in the morning of the show. Did you get my video? Yes. I'll ask him what's going on. And I saw this. I'm going to play the video in a moment of Lucy. Lily, not Lucy. Lily, who's doing a fabulous job, and she's at the Asian Games as the official kind of broadcast host for World Sailing and their YouTube videos. And I'm sure she's doing Chinese television as well. He sent me this as he was driving from the family farm back to Weymouth. And he said, I'm driving to Weymouth now. Hope to be back for the show. See you then. I said, drive safe. And then he sent me this picture. And he said, not going to make it. I had to stop at a local pub. Couldn't help myself.
Oh, yes. And
Does
I don't
that look
blame
good
him.
or what? Huh?
Oh, yes.
What are those? Fried perch? And onion, your favorite, Julia, onion rings. Great looking salad.
Mm.
Good stuff. Lots of comments here, too. Lots of comments. Jody Shields, congratulations, Jody. Good morning from Saturday morning, it is for him. Newcastle Beach, up early for a swim. Big day at our house. My youngest daughter marrying her Prince Charming.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Congrats, Jody, and to your bride and your entire family. Ted Ryman said he saw that. He watched that whole Netflix video a while back. It's great. Stingray saying, yep, 83, 40 year. I always think of Stingray as being way younger than not even 40 years old, but the guy's got to be closing in on probably 55.
Oh, it's got to be. Isn't he older than that?
Let's see if he'll put his age up there, but maybe he might be closing in.
Because I was really surprised when how old he was. He could be 26.
Well, he's a bright boy up in Seattle. Stingray said 83 is when the AC caught my first attention. It was historic. Emmett's on. He's late. He did stop off at the pub, as we just said. Replying to Ed Worley, okay, back and forth about who paid. But look at this, Alistair's. Look at Alistair's comment. I will be with the whole crew of Oz 2 in Perth next week, celebrating all still alive and looking forward to the party. Give them all our regards to Alistair, and I'm sure Alistair will take an awesome Aussie anecdote video with them.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We have an Aussie. We have an A4 today, too. Good one. Time to get out the autograph book, Gordon Smith is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What other? Say hi to Grunter. You know who Grunter is? That's the nickname for Grant, who was the navigator. Grant Simmer.
Simmer.
Yeah. His nickname is Grunter. Don't bolt that cup down too tightly, Ronald Reagan said in that famous. He had the Aussie crew to the White House.
Yes.
When they won. I mean, how cool is that?
That's cool.
It's almost as cool as Kennedy, who spoke in a white tie event the night before. What was it, 62 or 64, when the Aussies, first time they'd come to challenge. I think it was 62.
That's that classic speech, too.
And Alistair is, Sean Hogan saying, Alistair, I haven't seen my invitation to that party in Perth next week. I've had an invitation, and I have to decline, unfortunately. Led out, plus, Bigger Geno is Steve Gruber. Steve is so knowledgeable. 57 seconds at Mark 4 was the Liberty's lead before that epic and decisive downwind pass by Australia 2.
Isn't that nice to know?
Yeah, they stripped, Bill Wingrove is right, they stripped everything because they knew it was going to be lightish, and they'd already played their delay card. I don't know how many, I think he had 2 delay cards in those days, I can't remember. A real race course in 1983, Worley is saying, not like today. Yeah, triangle, windward, leeward, windward, which of course was the Olympic course in those days, too. Also, the red boat curse of the AC. No, as we've said on this show before, Julia, no red boat has ever won the Cup. And some have been famously died,
yes,
including Mariner. Good morning. We talked about Jody, Australia 2 taking Liberty. Yup. Crown Prince Gordon Smith. Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark has just been made an honorary member of the Yacht Club de France. That's nice. Crown Freddie, as we all call him, not disrespectfully, but he's a hell of a good sailor. I've known him for years now through the Par 40 class and others. Nice gentleman that he is, and an avid sailor. Emmett is saying he can see his breath. Winter is coming. The days are getting shorter here in the Northern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. Lots of comments. Lots and lots of comments. I'm just going to skip through these. No such thing as a magic pill. Gordon Smith, athlete that practiced good habits that is ready to succeed when the, yeah, exactly, take advantage. Lily away, John in the pub. Well, I think John probably makes the pub with and without Lily from time to time. Thanks, John Emmett. Fish and chips. Friday is fish and chips day.
Ooh.
Looked like fish and onion ring day, Julie, your favorite. 100 comments already. Jay Frederick. Hi, James. Boomer Bland, centerboard dinghy regatta at that he's, I think, running, the spark plug that he is, as many of you are for our beloved sport, at the Austin Yacht Club this weekend. 52-plus boats. Well done, James. Here's Fabian Harrelson. Thank you. Here's an update for Sail GP. New Zealand will be granted a fifth. Remember we were telling you all in the last show that they were going to redo the Sail GP redress rules because New Zealand wasn't really their fault. Their rig collapsed, apparently.
Yeah.
It's a structural problem. And Fabian's telling us, Fabian Harrelson, thank you, sir, New Zealand will be granted a fifth-place finish and 6 season points for Toronto, even though they're not racing, following a rule amendment by Sail GP. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And Alistair is telling us that Grant Simmer, is on his Australian sailing board, so he's putting back into the sport. Sean Hogan, must mention my partner's a Weatherly Sailor medal in the World Sailing Para Championships, competing with the amazing Betsy Allison in her first Worlds as a parasailer, which she won. 62 was the first AC match that Paul Homchick followed. And 3 hours drive. Oh, John Sangmeister. Technical sailing instead of technology sailing, Clayton Embley. Yeah, I think we all agree. I think most everybody on here, not everybody, but we like to see sails going up and down. We'd like to see sailors. We like to see grinding. We like to see trimming.
Yeah.
A team of 9, 10, 11 people, or as many in the IACC days, 17 on the boat. Good points all, as usual. Fabulous Fozy that we have, Julia. And thanks to John Emmett for that report. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet.
Yeah. John Sangmeister says ESPN highest viewership at that time is 4 million.
Yeah. And several of you said when we were talking on the show on Tuesday about how nobody watches, what they have, 3,000, 4,000, 7,000, probably more views than that by now, but live views on YouTube of that, what I call PR number 1 preliminary regatta, but it looks like they're PR regattas, that just dismal regatta last weekend in Villanova.
Which is a quite nice place.
Okay, but it's a preliminary regatta. I'm sure when the time comes and we get to the main event, the Challenger Selection Series, we'll have more views than that. But Sangmeister's right. John is right that ESPN was put on the map by 2 things back in those days, 86, 87. One was they got a baseball deal, and they were airing a lot of baseball in this country. And in those days, you couldn't see a lot of times only your local team, and only when the stadium was filled, was full.
Right.
And if it wasn't full, they would block it locally, so you couldn't watch it on the tube. But go to the stadium.
Yep.
So John's right. James Bland, if we wanted to watch ice boat sailing, we'd watch ice boats. The plus side of your shorter days that we're now suffering here in the Northern Hemisphere is that those of us, the Luca Craigers in Auckland, those of us in the land of the long white cloud, daylight saving starting tomorrow.
That's good to remind us.
I'll let you all do the comment. We're going to stay, we're going to stay at 1300 Pacific, whether we're on daylight time or standard time, and sooner or later people are going to come to their senses in this country. There are not many countries, Australia, not even all of Australia, part of Australia, New Zealand, the U.S., more and more countries are getting rid of daylight time and just staying on one time year round. And whatever, if you want to go an hour ahead or an hour behind, or tell me what, or half an hour ahead of some places.
I know.
That's weird. Neil Collingridge says, and of course he's a Brit, he's been assisting with the Global Team Race Regatta hosted by Royal Thames today. Some awesome skills on display. Now, I think, James J. Frederick, I think the Atlanta Braves are on Ted Turner's UHF station, not so much on ESPN, but you may know better than I. Yeah, Arizona is one state. Hawaii doesn't go on daylight time. They stay on something. I don't know if it's standard or daylight time for
I think it's standard, but
I think it's standard too, but I'm not sure. And Arizona doesn't change time. They stay on what, standard or daylight time year round.
I think standard.
And you know the other state? Indiana. Half
Oh, that's right. Half
of
of it.
Indiana goes on daylight time, and the other half doesn't. And one because one wants to stay always with Chicago, and I can't remember. Adelaide is a half-hour time zone. Emmett is telling us.
Yeah.
Bill Wingrove saying, "Yeah, Hawaii is on standard time year around." Okay, enough. Now we're on Time Zone Illustrated today. Can we all please fast forward to September 2024? Yeah, we're looking forward to that, Stingray. I think, Julia, I should change. I'll leave that cup up there, but I'm thinking to change the picture behind me back to the trimaran for this next year.
Okay.
It's out in the America's Cup salon here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, the living room. I think I may take that out and put it behind me again for the year, as Stingray says, we're looking forward to the next year. Let's go forward here. As John was telling us, the Asian Games, all of these regional games are a big deal. The 19th Asian Games are underway in Hangzhou, and that's all of the games, not just sailing. And the sailing is in Ningbo, off to a great start. And they started a couple days ahead of the other Asian Games.
Does it really mean 22?
You know what? I don't know why it said that, and if they were delayed because of COVID, and these are like they did with the 2020 Olympics, and they called it the 2020 Olympics in 2021.
Yeah.
I texted John this morning, and I'm not sure if he did answer me. I didn't see it. So these may be the Asian Games that are delayed because of it. But as well as being a great event in their own right, these Asian Games are, as John mentioned, are a qualifying event for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, with places available in the men's and women's Formula Kite, the IQ foil, which is the replacement for the windsurfer, and the ILCA 6 and 7.
That's pretty good. Oh.
So I have not the current report. I have the report from that Lily Zhu did yesterday, the day, I guess, one report. So John says that the day 2 report, I gather is what he's saying, is just now being posted on the World Sailing YouTube channel if you want to go look at that. But in the meantime, I just want to say bravo Zulu to Lily, our Fozy, John's wife, and the Olympic gold medal, the Golden Lily.
Yes.
Who is doing a fabulous job in her career now as a broadcaster, as a journalist. And here she is at the Asian Games.
Day 1 at the Asian Games Hangzhou. Today we come to course area A for all the foiling boards. There's a quite competitive fleet in the IQ foil men, as 9 countries will fight for the single Olympic entry at this event.
Today it was really tricky, and sometimes rainy, sometimes shifty, and then 10 to 12 knots is maximum.
In the women's IQ foil class, since China has already secured a spot in the Worlds last month, it will be mainly a battle for the rest of the fleet.
If I say there's no pressure, then I must be just kidding. This is my second time joining the Asian Games, and this time I think for me I'm more enjoying the process.
Newly crowned Formula Kite men's world champion Maxi from Singapore will surely try his utmost to add an Asian Games gold medal into his record. In the women's Formula Kite fleet, Chinese Chen Jingyue is no doubt the most competitive one, alongside with Zheng Taiwan from Thailand, who will try to win the Olympic qualification here.
My result is like I'm expect to be, so I'm happy with my result for today. Yes. The goal for this event, I just want to get the ticket for the Olympic.
Okay, nice video, and what a fabulous job by Lily, huh?
Yes.
She's so comfortable.
Yes.
She's so demonstrative. She just looks like she's been doing this for years. You know?
And totally understandable.
And totally understandable, even though she's ESL or ETL, English second or third language. John can tell us.
Yeah.
Total good point, Julie. Gordon Smith, is Leonard, our Fozy Leonard Takahashi, is he taking part? There's no 49er racing in the Asian Games, I believe. That's accurate. So he would not be taking part. 49er class tends to do their own thing. And back and forth between Clark and Julie Aaron still on daylight team. Hi, John Lamberts Van Buren. She really does a superb job. Totally agree. Bravo, Lily. Ted Ryman is saying, Sean Hogan, I find the extra hour of daylight tends to fade. Fade my curtains. Oh, you guys and gals are.
But you know, if you're near the equator, your day doesn't change very much.
Well, that's a point that Clark made, right?
Yeah.
Somebody made that point. Yeah, Clark made that point. Steve Groover said, I just can't wait to see the next generation 75s. That really what this is all about. And, if that regatta last weekend had been in old 75s, and there were, and everybody knew that it had to be in 75s, people would have geared up to get 75s. Yeah, it wouldn't have been all that probably super competitive, but at least you'd be seeing the boats that are going to be used and not these tiddlywink boats that are going to be used by the men and the women ultimately in the juniors and the women ultimately. Thanks, Lily Ju. Thank you, World Sailing. And as I said, I think John, her next video is already up right on the World Sailing YouTube channel, Chanel channel. Now, I was doing the promo for this show last night and thought, what is the LEDE? What is the lead? What is the top story? Mm-hmm. And then I came across this 52 Super Series that had a dramatic turnaround. I don't know what's happened there today. If one of you can go on and find out, because their racing obviously is done. It is, they're in Spain, so it is CET. It's almost 11 o'clock, 2300, almost Central European time. And they're in Puerto Portals in Mallorca. And see what happened. But they've had the last couple of days, they've had a lot of breeze, and they've had collisions, and they've had some, crutonicism on the part of at least one team. Have a look at what's going on in Puerto Portals.
So welcome back to breezy Puerto Portals. It's day number 3, 20 knots on the forecast. Very difficult day yesterday for Platoon and for Sled, who missed races 2 and 3 after damage on the start line. Both boats are back.
Yeah, the short team did an amazing job. The boat is ready to go. We are still in a position that we can have a good event.
Well, race 4 started in the strongest breeze we've seen this season so far, 20 to 23 knots on the start line. But in fact, Platoon didn't even make it to the start while the race was starting. They were coming back into the Marina de Puerto Portals. They had broken the D1 shroud, and that meant they had to sit out the next 2 races making repairs. And in an incredible turn of events, at the same time, the circuit leaders, main rivals to Platoon, Preveza, have the rig damage of their own. They have to return to port as well and miss the next 3 races. And the big loss for Preveza is that they're scoring 12 points, DNSs, for these 3 races. Things do improve for Platoon though. They managed to get out to the start of the 3rd race of the day. They get round the racecourse in good shape, finishing 3rd behind Phoenix and Quantum Racing.
We can fight. That's very good. Let's hope to sail at least a couple of regattas more.
Fortunately, we have enough distance in the circuit to still be in the lead. We are still with options to go and get what we deserve.
So an incredibly tough day for Preveza, gaining 36 points. Meantime, Platoon closed the gap to just 6 points going into the penultimate day of the season. And while the top 2 protagonists were struggling with their own problems out on the racecourse, well, it was a good day for the Phoenix team, put together 2 wins and extending their lead at the top of the table.
Today was rugged, big waves, some interesting shifts, and it was important just to keep it simple and do all the simple things right. So the guys did a great job with that today.
So the event standings after 6 races, well, Phoenix leading on 16 points, second are Sled on 26, and third, Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, on 27. What an incredible day on the Bay of Palma, a Hollywood script you could not dream up. But the good news is Preveza are back in action, Platoon back at full strength, 6 points between the top 2 boats going into the last 2 days of the season.
Ted Ryman, your team is leading. Your South African team, at least in this regatta, not in the season overall. Here's the standings overall. As you saw maybe on one of those screens that flashed up there for a few seconds. The point is that Preveza and Platoon both had awful days. That video's from last night, from yesterday. I don't know what's happened there today, but this is for all the marbles. They've had the 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th and the final regatta this year. But look at these boats, Julia.
I know.
They sail in 5 to 25, or
I've always
3 to 30, whatever the numbers are.
I've always thought they were great.
Proper yacht racing.
Yeah.
And that's how we have to conduct our sport. As somebody just said, who was it? Somebody said about flat tires. Where's that coming? You see that? They're talking about this town that's 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Lambert's, right? Lambert's Van Beer. John is saying, sorry, but racing foiling AC-75 or AC-40 in 5 to 6 knots of breeze is like forcing Formula One cars to race on
flat tires. Nice comment.
Were they wearing Johnny Depp clothes? But 6 time zones. Okay, but everybody's still on time zones. Everybody likes time zones and trophies and a few other and weather. 20 knots is just getting started in a nice breeze. Exactly, Boomer. James Frederick Bland. Exactly. Bill Wingrove, I would spend many days watching these boat races versus the slot car boats, which exactly go out to the to the ley line, not even the ley line, out to the boundaries, tack, come back. Okay, there's plenty of tactics and there's plenty of course management that's going on in those, both in the Sail GP and in the America's Cup. But sailboat racing is not car racing, and until. Well, we all talked about it on Tuesday. Until we have a way that if Sunday is blown out or there's no wind, you got to do like golf does.
Yeah.
You go on to Monday, and you have to everybody know that if we lose Sunday, we're going to go on to Monday, because having 2 bad days in a row is pretty rare in most places. It's, just high pressure system comes in. Just not going to happen. Good sailing. Yeah, Don Lunabos agrees. Sail GP points update. New Zealand will be granted. Yeah, thanks, John Emmett, for that. That was, I think we had covered that a second ago. So there's the overall. Provenza and Platoon are still on top for the season championship, but only 6 points apart. Looks like Quantum is probably not in the hunt unless one or the other of those 2 boats both of those 2 boats have a problem in the remaining races today and tomorrow, right? They have racing tomorrow to wrap this up. So I guess that's the lead story, and it's certainly fun to see boats that are yacht racing, traditional yacht racing, that I think is some of the most exciting racing going on in the world again this year after year in the 52 Super Series, Bravo Zulu, just like Andrew McIrvin's Maxis, some of the great racing, just like J. Frederick Bland's Fins and OK Dinghies. I mean, this is Sunfish. Tell me what. Bill Wingrove Sunfish in Tampa. This is cool stuff, right, Julia?
It is. What
happened, Julia, this day in history? On the 22nd of September, 1985, and it's at least water or boating related. Here is your first clue. Yeah, Stingray's ahead. I've got the weather forecast for Toronto tomorrow. It looks like breeze on, actually, on tomorrow, Stingray, in the first Sail GP. A little lighter on Sunday. Going to frontal passage tomorrow night in that part of Italy. So what happened on this day, 1985?
Well, the Rainbow Warrior showed up.
That is actually a photo from 81 in Amsterdam Harbor. You can see some of the, maybe the Dutch, the name of that boat, harbor. Rainbow Warrior, Alistair Murray's got that. Greenpeace was sunk? No. Julie Aarons loves the Gov Cup. That's a nice comment. What happened on this day in 85? There's in 81, Rainbow Warrior in Amsterdam Harbor. There's your next clue. And that is still not on this day. That is on the 10th of July, 1985, when the Rainbow Warrior was sunk. Remember, we're talking obviously about the 22nd of September. But it was sunk in an operation satanique. Satanique, how do you say that in French? Satanique was a state terrorism bombing operation by the Action Branch of the French Foreign Intelligence Agency.
Good heavens.
The Directorate General for External Security, DGSE, carried out on the 10th of July. During the operation, 2 operatives sank the flagship of the Greenpeace fleet, Rainbow Warrior, at the port of Auckland on her way to protest against a planned French nuclear test in Mororoa. Fernando Pereira, I guess, a photographer, sadly drowned on the sinking ship. Yeah, a guy was killed. So he was, Stingray's tongue-in-cheek saying, were they attacked by French orcas? No. Rainbow Warrior was sunk by, no. It was sunk by NZ, the French. No. What happened on this day a couple months later after it was sunk, which happened on the 10th of July in 85? Well, what happened? That's good. People aren't Googling it. They're trying to figure it out. The French Prime Minister, Laurent Fabius, appeared on TV to confess that the DGSE sank the boat. They acted on orders. So the French government admitted to it. And only after the New Zealand government had launched an investigation, they had tracked couple of the guys down that were involved in doing it. They were down, one was down the South Island somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
They tracked them down, and they knew bloody well it was the French that had done it. And of course, everybody knew that they were in Auckland to go out and protest the ongoing French nuclear tests down that part of the world. Always them froggies, John Van Buren is saying. Okay, we stumped everybody on that one, Julia.
Yep.
That's what happened on this day in history, the 22nd of September, 1985. Now, for the promised AAAA, and I love that when Alistair does this. I love it when any of you do this sort of a story featuring people who are, again, spark plugs, who are making our sport happen in a grand style at the Sandringham Yacht Club in this case. Alistair, take it away.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. This is Alistair checking in for AAAA, Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. And I'm here with two of my very dear friends. In fact, my two very favourite people at the whole yacht club, right? They say I say that to everybody, but I don't. So Di Tyndall and Margaret Whitbread, welcome to Sailing Illustrated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you as my guests. This is a show that goes worldwide. Many thousands of people watch it. We've got a real community called the Fosey, Friends of Sailing Illustrated. So you could be Fosey, you could be Fosies as well. You know, as you know, Tom and Julia, I like to feature different people along the journey, people that I know in sailing, and I'm introducing you to Di and Margaret because they're part of the fabric of Sandringham Yacht Club and part of the fabric of sailing in this country because they're volunteers, and you know that sailing is based on volunteers. They won the Club People of the Year some years ago and was so well received. They're very, very popular, I can tell you. And so we're going to just hear their story a bit. So what they do, and we're down here today for it, but it's been blown out. We're here in the race tower at Sandringham Yacht Club. You can see in the background, the bay, it's blowing about 30 knots out there, so it's been called off when we're not sailing. So I thought I'd have a chat to Di, or Daisy, as I call her, and Margaret. They run the racing here and have done for how many years, Margaret?
Together, we've worked together as a team since 2011.
2011?
Yep.
Yeah, so 12 years running this series,
yes.
This racing.
Yeah, actually, I've been a bit longer because I joined 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I joined the club and I went straight to the tower.
Straight to the tower?
I came straight to the tower. Yep.
Wow.
And I joined in 99 and in 2000, I think end of 2000, I was out there on the water doing race management.
Oh, fantastic. Straight to the tower sounds like a penalty to me. Straight to the tower. So let's talk about Wednesday Wonders, this particular series, because it's funny how, you know, and it's happening worldwide. Less and less weekend racing, more and more fun and casual stuff. So weekday racing is really booming. Wednesday Wonders is the most popular series here at Sandringham Yacht Club, and it's just fantastic to be part of it. How many boats do we get?
Oh, you reckon on average between 12 and 45 boats?
Yes.
Yeah, with about 50 or 60 entered for the series?
Yes, there's always over 50, invariably over 50 entered for the series, and of course we get more boats out generally during the summer series than in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the weather's a bit better here in summer. And why is it so successful? Why do so many people come down to this?
I think a lot of it's
the people.
It's
It is the people.
It's the Wednesday Wonders family, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
we had a new member about 5 years ago now, and after he'd been sailing Wednesdays, I guess for a few months, he came up to me and he said, Margaret, I've worked out what Wednesdays are. I said, what's that? He says, you're just like a family.
Yes.
I said, yep, got it in one. Everyone is equal when they come back to the bar, whether they've got a 30-footer or a 50-foot boat.
Yeah.
Everyone, they all just talk, and they're all equal.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
Fantastic. Well, it is a great success, and tends to be older people because it's midweek. We start at 1:30 in the afternoon, so a lot of people are retired. I do my bit when I walk into the bar at the end of it to drag the average age down.
We do have I think the youngest would be Andy Lynch.
Oh yeah.
30. He'd
Yeah.
be around the 30s.
Yeah. But generally an
so
older
30
crowd.
to 90.
Yeah.
So, Daisy, why do you do it? What? How did you get stuck?
How did I get stuck?
In a positive way.
Well, when I was
Kate, wasn't it?
no, in fact, it was John Chatham who got me up here.
Yeah.
When I joined, I sort of said, I'd like to sort of be involved in the social side. And anyway, somehow or other, John Chatham came along one day and said, how about you come out and try it on one of the boats, to do race management, and fell in love with it. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Oh, fantastic. And so why do you come back? What brings you back?
The people.
The people, yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a fabulous club, fabulous people, and the best ones are Wednesday Wonders.
So, and why do you keep coming back, Margaret? What?
I think again, it's the people.
Yeah.
It's just to get me out of the house. It's my sanction. It's my sanction. It's my saviour.
Yeah.
I can forget about all the crap. You know how to say that word?
You can say whatever you like.
You can forget about everything, all the things that are happening at home, and you can just focus on the yacht club, focus on the race, and you forget about everything else.
Yeah.
And which is good.
Well,
It also helps if we can come down. If your husband or partner is sailing, why not be part of it? Surely. So why not?
Yeah, fantastic. You might get it. So Tom's partner in crime is Julia, and she gives you the finger wag for bad language. You might get a finger wag for the use of the word crap. But, that's all we've got time for. Quick chat. Tom and Julia and all the Fozzie, I hope you've enjoyed meeting Di and Margaret. Two of the great people of sailing, and as I said, part of the fabric of our sport. I love these ladies, and you've heard their story. You hear why they keep coming back, and I've got to tell you, it's something special. What other sport does this happen in? So, on behalf of all sailors, and particularly members of Sandy, I'll sign out by saying thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Daisy, for everything you do. And you make it great for us.
Pleasure.
We enjoy
Thank you.
it.
Bye, Fozzies.
Bye, Fozzies and Tom and Julia. See you guys.
Thank you, Alistair.
I think we have to congratulate Diane and Sandy for
Margaret. Daisy and Margaret.
Because you expressed exactly what Sailing Illustrated is all about, the volunteers and the people and good racing. And we now welcome you as official Fozzies.
Exactly. And look at everybody on the comments. Fritz Mueller, thanks, ladies. And Alistair Gordon Smith saying, Alistair Murray, you might have mentioned that the finger whack is mostly used on Stingray. Two thumbs up from Ed Worley. Stingray saying it's hard to tell what time zone these people are on and if they even care. No, it's so nice. It's such a nice ladies. Ted Ryman is saying the most fun part of sailing is the camaraderie. That's Julie Ahrens. And Fritz Mueller, auf Deutsch. This is great. Folks having fun driving our sport. Gordon Smith, I love it when we get to meet people and see places I might not otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, and another interesting point, Julie, I think is that, at least in my lifetime, we went from racing primarily on weekends, and now everywhere that I frequent. I mean, when we lived in Hamburg, Germany, the big racing was on Wednesday or Thursday night. That was, that's at the turn of the century. God, it sounds a long time ago.
I know,
23 years ago. Turn of the century sounds like 1900.
It does.
So it's the turn of the century at 2000. That was when that racing was. Our Clark Chapin will tell you, our little club that has hardly races on weekends a little bit, but most of the racing is on Thursday night. Everybody comes in, sits down at dinner together. The laser sailors may go into a local pub. They must know John Emmett. Go to a local pub and share a meal. And these ladies are there, they said, because the people,
of course,
the camaraderie, and we're there because of them. People like them,
right,
who make our sport possible. In fact, Clark Chapin's. Look at these. They're just having a blast. Thank you, Alistair.
Yes,
but Clark, it reminds me of Clark Chapin's mother, who probably, for the better part of 50 years, speaking of our pontoon boat, that's our race committee boat that's being retired, she was the chief scorer. She would go out racing on the Thursday nights or on the weekends, and she did all the scoring, and she was so proficient at it, so good at the late great Betty Chapin, Clark's mother, and I think we can all point to people in our home clubs.
Absolutely.
And the racing here, the big nights, Wednesday night over at St. Fancy, because they go out and they're starting right in front of the bar, 3 fleets, the Woodies, go up and down, and then come in. Everybody comes into the bar and at least has a glass of soda water or a beer or something. If not, you have a meal with their crew, and it's great spirit.
Yeah.
Great fun. What a fabulous sport we have. Go Australian sailing and volunteering, a great sport. Go Fozy. Yeah, we want to welcome those ladies, Alistair. Tell them we are making them official Fozy. Hope they'll join us again sometime on the show. Portage Yacht Club, Clark is saying, may have run its last weekend club race a week or so ago. Really? Never again, Clark? We're going to go to all weekday racing? Wow. Julie Aaron saying they're racing in Cleveland Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights. Joe Holtzman agreeing. Joe probably hadn't been to our little club in Michigan in years. He's in Estes, Colorado, but Betty Chapin was a gem. He reminds me so much of these two ladies. And we, again, sorry to repeat, but we are so lucky to have people like this.
Absolutely.
In our sport. And Clark is saying, last Friday would have been his late great mom, Betty's 101st birthday. Not enough registrants. People are doing household stuff, family stuff, taking their kids to soccer, whatever else is going on the weekend.
Yeah.
But it seems to me, at least, tell me if any of you experiencing the opposite, where more racing on the weekends and less to no racing during the week. I wonder if that is happening anywhere. Clayton Embley saying weekday racing is great because it allows sailors to get to the bigger weekend races. If you go to a regatta or something, you don't have to worry about sailing in a club race. Christopher Gillingham, sailing is definitely all about the people, the friendships, and thanks for the memories.
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you, Alistair, for
and
that.
The whole issue of volunteering and volunteerism is central to what goes on.
Absolutely central. Nice stuff. And that we have our outro. Anybody else wants to do a report from your country like Alistair does, like John does? I don't know. I had turned that up because the lady's audio was not quite as loud as it needs to be. Anybody else wants to do one? We love to have this local content. Fabulous.
And we all
national content.
Yeah, we all learn from it.
Yeah, we do indeed. Good point. We sail more in the morning before all the wakeboard boats are out. Jay Rendell is saying up, and that's a good point though that Jay's making. They're up. You're at Minnetonka, right, Jay? Okay, I think we can. Have we seen enough of that? Heard enough of that? I love that song. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. That's another problem on the weekends, at least in the lakes in our part of the world, up there in the upper Midwest, Michigan, Minnesota, where Jay is. On the weekends, there are lots of power boats, lots of wakeboarders, as Jay is saying, lots of the little skidoos and stuff. So there's much quieter, more peaceful on the weeknights. Maybe that's a big part of why it's. I wonder if in San Diego, where the big racing is. Well, the beer cans there are on Wednesday. The beer cans in Balboa Yacht Club down there on Thursday. Do you know why they're called beer can races?
Because that's why people went sailing.
Do you know why they're called beer can races?
Because they got beer cans.
If you didn't know the course, this was somebody told me this not too long ago.
Yeah.
Any of our Fozy know? Why are often these are called these midweek evening races, informal casual racing. Why are they called beer can races? At least they are in this country. Mark Michelson says, yeah, Honolulu was always been Friday night. Bannero's got it. Buoys look like beer cans? No. Bannero's got the answer. Rick says, follow the empties. And that was if you didn't know the course.
Oh, that's
if you didn't
nice.
know the course, you could just follow the empty beer cans. Of course, you don't toss beer cans over the side, but
anymore.
Well, and I think in most places we never did that. Hopefully not. Thank you, Alistair. Terrific report as always, and nice to meet people and see places. Then we promised you, and several of you asked, you wanted to come and comment about this, particularly this article that showed up about Mr. Dalton and AC-37 and the regatta in Villanova, and the next regatta, PR number 2, which is going to be in Jeddah. So you all know about this regatta that took place last weekend. We talked about it at some length on Tuesday's show. It was the 14th through the 17th, just down the coast from Barcelona. And I'm going to ask you now if this article that appeared on the front page of Sailing Illustrated is correct or croutonic. I actually have a bone to pick with it. I think some of it is seriously croutonic, and I'll tell you what I think and why after we go through the article. But to start with, it was on the front page of Sailing Anarchy a couple days ago. And the headline...
You said Sailing Illustrated.
Did I? I meant Sailing Anarchy. Yeah. Thank you, Julia. The headline is, How Low Can You Go? Yeah, it was not on Sailing Illustrated. As an exercise in effrontery... Is that a word, Julia? You Stanfordites would know that.
Sure.
I know it is. I'm teasing. This one is hard to beat. The King and Queen of Spain have traveled to Barcelona to present America's Cup CEO Grant Dalton with a City Promotion Award. Seriously, Dalton squeezes well north of $100 million out of Barcelona for the right to host AC-37, and now he has the bald-faced cheek to accept a gong for his efforts. Okay, I'm going to stop there. And I'm sorry, but that is a cheap shot in my opinion. It's croutonic. Because if you got to go look at this. This is just social media being unfair and wrong. There was an event long planned, and the king, who's a sailor, well, Felipe, it's Juan Carlos's son, and Felipe is now the king, and Felipe was in the '92 Olympics because I umpired one of his matches. Well, I won't go into all that. And his queen, Letizia, is that the queen's name? There was an award ceremony in Barcelona that were several different awards. There were maybe half dozen, maybe more awards to various people about various things, not just promotion. It wasn't like this sounds like it was a special trip by the king and queen to go down and present a gong to Mr. Dalton. That's simply not true. In fact, he was the last on the list of 7, 6, 7, 8, however many awards there were for various things that helped to promote that part of Spain. And remember, the separatists, there's still a strong separatist movement in Catalonia, and Madrid, and they're all trying to hold it all together. So for them to go down and present Mr. Dalton an award, I see nothing wrong with that, and I think this, in my humble opinion, is a cheap shot. So Ed Worley is saying, however, a lot of the article is correct. The cup is going in the wrong direction, and the soaring costs for everyone. Okay. Now you need a gong for your desk. Somebody send me a gong, and we'll put it here. We'll have a little, right?
Oh, yeah.
Here. That doesn't ring. Oh, we don't have anything that rings here. Okay, we need a gong on the desk. But the rest of the article, as Ed is saying, is probably true. But there's more to come. In late November, the AC Magical Mystery Tour will decamp to Jeddah on the Red Sea. For those who don't know their geography, Jeddah is the second city of that wonderful sport-loving democratic nation of Saudi Arabia. We can't be sure how much Dalton extracted from Jeddah, but it must be a small fortune. Do I have a gong button? Let's see.
You may.
I have a horn button. I could probably get a gong button. Okay, enough of that. We have a rim shot.
Yeah.
I hate those sound effects. Let's get back to the article. But there's more to come. Jeddah, obviously, how much did he extract? Yada, yada. The article goes on. The deal was done more than a year ago while the world was condemning Saudi Arabia for the murder and dismemberment of a journalist who'd had the temerity to question the conduct of its ruling king and crown prince. This is a journalist for the Washington Post. Dalton was clearly untroubled. At the March 2022 announcement of the Jeddah deal, he even went so far as to claim that it would, quote, transform lives through sailing and the technologies associated with it. Regrettably, those, quote, transformed, unquote, lives will not include the lives cut short by the routine imposition of the death penalty in Saudi Arabia, where there have been up to 80 executions in a single day. This is a country with no national elections or political parties. It ranks 150th out of 157 on the Democracy Index. It sponsors terrorism, censors including the 9/11 incident, the internet, and discriminates savagely against women, to say nothing of gays. None of that seems to concern Dalton and his America's Cup event operation, and how this must all stick in the craw of the New Zealand public. The New Zealand public. Because this anarchist, David, as he's called, Julia, goes on to say, for decades, they, meaning the New Zealand public, contributed huge amounts of taxpayer and corporate funding to contest and win, more than once, the America's Cup. The only country to win it more than once, or the only club, I should say, to win it more than once other than New York. They had a right to expect, the Kiwi public, had a right to expect the defense to be sailed on their home waters. But when the NZ government and City of Auckland couldn't quite meet Mr. Dalton's price, he turned his back on national pride and sold the regatta to the highest bidder. Such is the appalling influence of big money on sport in the 21st century. So I ask you, you can comment if you could think I'm wrong in saying that first part of that article was unfair. I think it was patently unfair, and I think it was a cheap shot. How about the rest of the article? Is it correct or croutonic? Julie, you want to start?
I have a logical answer and a non-logical answer.
Well, you want to go through the comments first, and then come back to your answers?
Okay.
Yeah, Gordon Smith, and since when was sailing anarchy the pinnacle of journalism? It's not. But again, we on this show, as you all know, Julie and myself and all of you, respect open discussion without name calling, without personal attacks, without coarse language. And by and large, everybody, whether on here or in the comments on YouTube or on Facebook, respect that. And we respect opinions from you don't have to be constructive opinions. They just can't be destructive opinions. We respect those far and wide. The rest is correct. Tier DeYoung is saying the rest dollars rule here. Sorry. Okay, the comments are coming fast and furious now. Let me back up to the top. People like it when maybe Dalton could get Slingsby dismembered. That's horrible, Stingray. That deserves a finger wag, Julia. That is not correct.
No.
It's not even funny. Washington Post only has journalist emphasis in quote marks. Yeah, okay, Rick, some would say that. Alex Kent got you going. Okay, how about a live studio audience? I want to go. Sport washing. Yeah, well, gong. Okay, there's a YouTube something. That's probably a sound effect.
Yeah.
It was largely a large fortune, Clark. I don't know how much money there was, but it is the sport. Okay, there is the other side of the argument, is that until the Western democracies go to these places and like Formula One has done and try to spread some good influence, but excuse me, this country is not going to change anytime soon, and it's certainly not going to change because of the America's Cup or F1 or golf or sports washing. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Probably not wrong, but you'll open lots of eyes.
Yeah, but eyes are opened anyway. And there is the other problem. Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, eyes can be opened, but not felt. Meaning.
Well, the other problem is that people in the country sit there and say, well, we must be okay if Formula One, America's Cup, and golf World are coming here. We must be okay. There must be nothing wrong with how we do things. On the flip side of that is we shouldn't be telling countries how to run their internal affairs. And I also agree with that. We shouldn't go nation building.
Okay.
But it's a hard issue. It's a tough issue, and I think it deserves discussing on this show.
Yes.
What happens when someone throws a party and nobody comes? Okay. Take a breath, Craig Lewick. That is scuttlebutt. Well, even Craig Lewick is not too amused with this. Saudi Arabia and China have a lot in common, Ed Worley is saying. Hi, John Mangino. Nice to see you on. Croquet and badminton, Rick Bannerow says, are now total corrupt. All it took was a sawbuck. Yeah, money. Clayton Embley saying it's largely correct. That is the article, given the amount of information that he has. Correct, 80 a day is sick. That is always funny. Fritz Mueller, it's neither correct or croutonic. It smells. John Lamberts Van Buren, trust me, I'm a keelboat with kite fan. However, rather than always asking the old fogies, I wish they would ask the opinion from the kids and teenagers in the yacht clubs. They are the future of our sport, and what do they think about the AC-40 and AC? Okay, that's fair enough, but we're on Jeddah at the moment, John. Only if they agree with us old people here, then the AC is toast. A finger whack, Stingray, a finger whack. Throwing rocks, I think Stingray lives for a finger whack or two. I give him one more just so he'll feel better. Throwing rocks in glass houses springs to mind, Gordon Smith is saying. Yeah. The U.S. is not perfect. Probably all of our countries are not, but still. James Frederick Bland, the Barbary Islamic pirates have been taking slaves and killing infidels since before the 1700s, right? I wonder how difficult it is to get a press pass. Are there luggage fees? Clever. Okay, Stinger, I'm not going to read that one. I think all of the Fozy know what I mean, but making it personal is really unfair. Yeah, I Julie Aarons, I think the article was over the top in that respect. I agree with you. Good thing we don't talk politics here, Steve.
I know. I agree with you.
But you can't. I mean, it's a political world. Sports is politics, even more so than now. But it even was in 1983 when we were talking about the politics of the New York Yacht Club and the straw hats and what was then IYRU and so on and so forth. Julie Aarons, well said. Yeah, it should not be a personal attack. And that's why I took offense at the first part of that article. I thought it was a cheap shot against Mr. Dalton. The question remains whether this event coming up, the 29th of November through the 2nd of December, what I call PR number 2, preliminary regatta number 2, or public relations regatta number 2 in Jeddah, is correct or croutonic. And you will now all ask me, well, is the winner of PR number 1 going to Jeddah? And as far as I know, the winners of PR number 1, meaning New York Yacht Club's American Magic, are not going to Jeddah, as far as I know. We'll see how that all plays out. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Ed Worley saying Dalton has proven he is a good businessman, but taking government money always has political consequences. Yep, good point. I took government money in San Diego, and that defined a lot of how we had to run the event in San Diego, 88, 92, because we had money from the port. Not a lot, but still enough. Yeah, Steve Groover's got a good point. Let's talk about how much wind there will be in Jeddah.
Oh, yes.
Clark is wondering whether we should call this the Khashoggi Memorial Regatta. He being the journalist, Julie, you'll recall, who was writing, the Saudi, who was writing for the Washington Post. He got somehow in the Saudi embassy in Turkey, was it? It didn't come out, at least not in one piece. No pun intended. Oh, God. I mean, that just is, I'm sorry. And the fact that the Saudi government at least didn't warn the U.S. They knew what was going on with those 9/11 croutons and didn't do anything about it. So now you think that the Saudis and the Brazilians and the Chinese and the Russians, the BRICS and more, including South Africa and a couple others, are all ganging up on the U.S. to replace the dollar as the petrodollar.
I think they're already doing it.
And debase our currency, you think, and waging waging an economic war on the U.S.
Yes, I do.
Well, we'll see. We'll stick to sailing, however, and we'll see how that all plays out. And we appreciate your comments and interest in all of that. Speaking of which, coming up this weekend, tomorrow, is and it's Saturday, Sunday, not today, not Friday, Saturday. It is the Rockwool, which is the sponsor of the Danish team and had been the sponsor of the Danish event, but there's no event in Denmark this time. The Rockwool Italy Sail GP in Taranto, not Toronto, but Taranto. How do you say it? Taranto in Italian. They had the press conference today, but before I get to that, since the Danish team has been doing well, I thought we ought to have a look into Nikolaj Sehested and his team, and I know that a couple of you will be particularly, including Gordon Smith, will be particularly interested if you haven't already seen this nice video about the Danish team.
I'm Nikolaj Sehested and I'm from Denmark. I first went sailing in my hometown Kolding when I was 10 years old. I think it was lack of skill in other sports that made me start sailing. Oh, that's deep, not sure. I don't think it would change much, because then it wouldn't be the journey that it is. You just need to let it happen and be on a journey and enjoy it. And sorry to break it to you, but you can't go back 10 years in time. Mr. Chips, it was an optimist thingy. My first job was working on my childhood farm where I grew up. All-time favorite sailing destination would probably be Lake Garda, I think. 100% an aisle seat. Need to be able to get out as quickly as possible. 20 knots and pretty much flat water and clear skies, probably Bermuda conditions. Hopefully still sailing, competing. If not at SailGP, then at least at other competitive sporting circuits.
My name is Katja Salsgøversen and I am from Denmark. I started sailing in a little lake called Fursøen, and I started when I was 7 years old. My mom and dad inspired me. They were my big idols. That's why I started. Whoa. I would give myself the advice of try to stay happy in the moment and not worry about the future. I think it was Danske Bank. Like I'm not good with the naming my boats, so it was just the sponsor name. My first job was it babysitting? Maybe. I think that's a real job, isn't it? I love sailing everywhere, but maybe Sydney. I'm a big fan of Sydney. It's just the wind is good and the race course is super exciting. A lot of things happening. I'll see. But that changed. I used to be a window, but it changed. It is full foiling conditions and shifty. I love when there's a lot of game going on. I see myself being happy and successful, but don't know how that's gonna happen.
My name is Hans Christian Rosenel and I'm from Denmark. I went sailing a little north of Copenhagen called Skorshoved. I think my dad inspired me to go sailing for the first time. Oh, I can't answer that. No idea. No, I don't know. Doing what you're doing, I don't know. I think it had a name, but I can't remember. I had no idea. Washing sailing clothes in the sailing club. My favorite sailing destination would probably be in Portugal, Lagos, down in Algarve, down south. Or when I'm flying, I prefer, I don't know, like 15 to 18 knots probably. Nothing I put like special force into. I think there was plenty. I can't name a name. There's no special.
Does window or aisle seat resonate with you as something interesting about a person? I don't know why they ask that question.
I don't know how you would. How tall are you?
Well, but I think, having said that, I think those videos are fabulous.
Yes.
And yeah. I love to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like the stuff that Alistair did.
Right. You get a good feel for the person. Yeah.
And that team is doing well. Back on currency, Baton Rouge, we all agree with Baton Cannon, D.C., meaning the Washington, D.C. is debasing our currency, yeah, and causing inflation and yada, yada. Lots of comments. I'm not going to read all these. I just love this Danish team, Stingray is saying. I agree, Stingray. Gordon Smith, Hans Christian took my son Oscar for his first sail in a keelboat. Cool. And there's Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. I'm in Istanbul For the Bosphorus Cup, no racing today. I saw that there was no wind. I was going to run that picture or video. Looks better for main event in Bosphorus tomorrow. Bit late here now, 0034. Thanks for checking in, Doctor. Go get some sleep. Julie Aaron's talking about the New Zealand taxpayer. Yeah, okay. JS was the best rock star of the SailGP presser today. He's so damn good in the interviews. I wonder, boxers are, yeah, right. J. Frederick Bland is saying maybe we could ask some boxers or briefs. Exactly. Who the frig cares, right? Hans Christian, Gordon Smith is saying, has an equally talented twin brother.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Middle seat isn't a choice. They must be in first class. Oh, well, yeah. What if you were a tree? What kind of tree would you be? Yep. I still think these are terrific videos. I wish they'd ask more or stick to the kind of sailing-related questions, but I should talk. Okay, Stingray, guess what I've got for you and the others? A little more info on this regatta coming up this weekend, tomorrow and Sunday in Toronto. How do you? I wonder how.
Tirana.
It's well, Paul Henderson's a Tirana.
Yeah.
Tirana, as in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yeah. But how do we distinguish between Toronto and Taranto? Maybe that's it, Taranto. I don't. The hard A doesn't sound right. Hey, guess who did the best today in the practice races? Season 3 champions Australia had finished at the top of the leaderboard in Taranto's practice racing today ahead of official racing. The Aussies picked up a 1:62 fleet race record across the 3 practice races, which saw multiple teams suffer technical problems on the water. Oh, I wonder we're going to see more of what we saw with the Kiwi rig. It comes after Slingsby said in a pre-event press conference that the Aussies were frustrated not to have won an event so far in Season 4, despite making it into all 3 event finals. Now, speaking of that press conference, SailGP did something else that is really good. They did the best, instead of just taking the whole half an hour, 45-minute video, which they have done and posted it online, which is not very useful for anybody. They've done the greatest hits. They've done excerpts, outtakes from that, the whole press conference, and here it is.
Buongiorno, Lisa. Buongiorno. Buongiorno tutti. Scusa, però mio italiano non va bene. Grazie.
I was going to ask Jimmy, I was thinking about this. You've been with Luna Rossa for 20 years, and that's the best you've got.
It's one of those things we went back and looked at and debriefed, and we said, what could we have done differently or better? We actually feel we did the right things 80 or 90% of the time. What we did would have been absolutely fine. The British spotted a wind shift, we didn't, but they did it at the perfect time. I actually don't know what we could have done there to do a better job.
Any advice, Ben? Do you think Tom should have tacked around in front of you? Is that a mistake?
Look, far be it from me to start dishing out advice to 3-time winners of the league. You know, potentially Hannah could be one of the first females to get to drive one of these boats in the future, which would be really cool to see.
The starts on the final races are quite different than on the fleet races. The priorities change. We learned after that one that you cannot be late on a final. If we make another one at some point, we will be more prepared for sure.
It's frustrating not to get an event win this year. It feels like 3 events now we've been in the podium race and we've had a really good shot at it, and we haven't delivered. It's rare to see me lose a race or our team lose a race up that final leg of a final and not get angry and hear swear words. Usually if I make a big mistake or I feel like the team's not performing, you'll hear about it over my radio.
I'm going to speak in English just so my friends here on the left can understand what I'm saying, and at the same time I don't damage an incredibly beautiful language.
We heard you laughing at the Swiss a few minutes before doing something similar. Do you think that was karma for actually putting it over?
Yes.
It's always been a goal of ours. It's just consistency, because most of the time that will get you some good scores either in the season but also in the events. So we just try to not take too many risks and try not to hit too many boats, Phil. And then, consistency.
I can highly recommend it. It really sets you up well for your weekend.
So the atmosphere and team is really good.
We love to work together. I think it's also good for us to have the events so close together and not a month or even more in between. Sailing Germany is completely on fire. You can see also that with Sebastian Vettel and also the Deutsche Bank, some global players in sports and business showing interest in the team and the series. So I think it's a good start.
We are really motivated to move forward and go back to the front of the fleet. You have to manage the downs pretty well to come back quickly.
I don't think it's very Phil Robertson to back off. You've got 10 boats doing sort of 40 to 100 kilometers an hour, and on a miniature course, you're going to see some action. The umpiring needs a review, I think, in the series. Right now, the Port Tack boat has a huge amount of power, and they're getting away with murder. I'm still personally quite baffled by the decision and how it was ruled. I'd recommend to stay away from me when I'm on board.
Yeah, that decision you were about to ask about, there's actually a video out about, and I'm not going to air it because it was kind of cryptonic, asking whether or not the collision between Canada and Spain, whether it was intentional, whether Canada intentionally, Phil Robertson, of course, the skipper, intentionally crashed into them.
I did see that.
And I frankly think it was the right call. And I think the umpires are doing a hell of a good job. You know, the umpires can almost do this from home now. So maybe in some cases they are doing it from home. I like that press conference. Did you like that, Julia?
Yes.
I like that too. So the question is, who's going to win this weekend? Can Sir Ben repeat his win in Saint-Tropez? I don't think so, and here's why. The breeze is going to be up, as I think Stingray, one of you mentioned a few minutes ago. And remember, the racing window is 1330 to 1500. So it looks like tomorrow it's southerly anyway, between, all day, but from 11 till 5 anyway, including the race window. It's going to be breeze on. It's going to be 16, 20, that's a mile per hour, but, call it knots. It's close enough. 20, 21, 22, with gusts as high as 30 at 5 o'clock. They should be done by then. This is Windfinder's predictions, and this is the European model. Most of that, if Mark's watching, Mark Michelson might even give us a check. Sunday, it looks like frontal passage over the night because it's shifted around then to the northwest. And Sunday during the race window, it looks like quite a bit softer. 7 and maybe as much as 14 at 5 o'clock, but in the race window it looks more or less 7 gusting 8. So I don't know about Sunday, but at least on Saturday it looks to me like it's Jimmy Spithill's conditions again, and it wouldn't surprise me given how he did today that he's back in the saddle again and has a good regatta. Well, I hope Sir Ben does well. I hope Jimmy Spithill finally gets on the podium. That would be good.
Yes.
Julia?
Yes, I agree. I've been waiting. I don't know, and maybe he doesn't either, why he's slipped into another gear.
I think he's old. I honestly, I think I've talked off, and I don't want to put words in John Emmett's mouth, but talking to a lot of people, we've said it before. We said it on Tuesday. I think it's tough for Sir Ben at his age, for Jimmy at his age, to deal with the speed at which these boats are going. I also think that Hannah Mills should not be doing television.
She should be racing.
She should be on the boat.
Yeah.
For on Sir Ben's America's Cup boat.
Yeah.
Now there's only 4 people, and they're saying, well, you got to have the experience of pushing the buttons and flying the boat. I think she's very valuable to Sir Ben. I think she's a hell of a good sailor. I think Sir Ben, again, I said it the other day, I think he's got to take himself off the boat and manage the campaign. It's too much.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, likewise, has got not only the sailing this boat and running that team, he's the CEO of that team, but he's also got a whole America's Cup campaign going on. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot in one basket. That's the leaderboard. Australia, this after the Saint-Tropez event, Tommy Slingsby on top with 26 points. These are the season championship, 24 for Spain, and Rockwool, Denmark on 23. And this season 4, event number 4, takes place this weekend. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. My choice is to see Tommy Spithill is to see Tommy, Spithill come back in Sail GP form.
How about Jimmy Spithill?
I think Jimmy, I don't know. Jimmy's just not had a very good go, and I think he's got a lot on. Pete Burling now is not racing. The Kiwis are not racing. So let's see. It wouldn't surprise me if Nikolai Sehested had a good regatta or Diego Botín, but I think you're going to see Tommy Slingsby is probably going to come out of this on the podium, if not the winner. What do you all think? Tom, nobody pays to see a single ball juggler. Good point. Slingers has two completely different teams, too. Yes, good point. But he seems to manage both better, and he's younger. And the old superstition about getting married, he just got married. Look at, he's doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
J. Frederick Bland, destructive interference in learning by having too much on their plates, multitasking. Yes. We should have a talk with John Emmett and others of you who are experts on that area about multitasking versus serial, what's the word? Serial monotasking or serial, which is, my workflow putting one of these shows together. I used to be more of a multitasker, and I realized that's not as productive as being focused but being a serial, what is it, monotasker? But doing
focused.
Singly focused, but serially focused. Do that.
Yeah.
Get that done. Then move to the next one. Be sure you wrap that section up and all the transitions between the slides and the lower third.
Yeah.
Then move to, and not be bouncing around from here, there, and everywhere. Then take a break. Go read all the comments, because the Fozy, I'm getting comments in from people on 4 different apps. This, that,
right.
and the other thing. Serial focus instead of doing a whole bunch of stuff at once. But on the boats, it's hard.
It's multi.
Julie Aaron says, I don't think Sir Ben can beat Slingsby, and it's not a game that Sir Ben is really good at. Jimmy is great, but I think he has lost his fire, maybe. I agree that Hannah Mills should be on. I think Hannah's terrific. There's another video out. We played one on Tuesday about her. Remember that, Julie?
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one about her that I almost played today.
Yeah, it was good. The other one.
Serial focus, J. Frederick Bland is saying. Multitasking isn't. Ed Worley saying multitask. Project management, critical task, critical path. Serial monogamy is good too, right, Julia?
Absolutely.
Okay, there's the standings going into this regatta this weekend. By the way, again, it's 1350 to 1500 is the live coverage on YouTube and Facebook and the app. And that is Dark 30 here. I don't think I'm going to get up and watch it. I'll probably watch it in replay, which gets us to the last leg and an event we have not covered at all. I don't think we've ever covered mini racing, the mini Transat and so on. But this is La Boulangerie. La Boulangerie. What's that mean? Boulange, is that a proper name of a company or something? Somebody must know that. But this is a big deal. There's some bunch of boats. Is it 90 boats? I think it's 90 boats. Let's see. Yeah. This starts on Sunday. Where's my lower third? I just had it there. It starts on Sunday at 1400 CET, the first stage of this 2-stage race. The first is from Le Sable d'Olonne in France down to the Canaries. You see on the map. Maybe I'll go in close up on the map. And then from the Canaries over to Guadeloupe. And that's the second stage. So the first stage starts this Sunday at 1400. And there are 90 of these single-handed minis.
That sounds great.
The popularity craze for La Boulangerie Mini Transat continues completely unabated, Tip and Shaft reports today. For the second consecutive edition, this has been going on for a long time, the organizers have decided to limit this transatlantic race in the Mini 6.50 to 90 participants, up from 84. As eclectic as ever, the field for this, 24th edition, reflects a real diversity of sailors with varied backgrounds and profiles, including no less than 27 international, I guess meaning non-French, skippers, and also including 14 women, Bravo Zulu. This is the first time that so many female racers have lined up at the start of the test.
That sounds great.
So I think, Julia, we should cover this.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Uh-huh. I do.
Don't you want to race one of those boats yourself?
No.
Neither do I.
I'll
Go ahead.
I'll congratulate them from the side.
Well, I think we should cover this. So you all tell me what you think. They're back on cereal focus. Cheerios like, okay, so it's not cereal, breakfast cereal. Stingray, talk about the presser. Girl power, no. Sailor power, get Hannah on the wheel. Maybe that's the solution. Gordon Spelling probably hasn't had enough time on those particular boats, but nonetheless. In John Lambert's Van Buren, I have not been covering this Ocean Globe race. I don't know why. It's pretty cool. I really enjoy that one. Maybe we need to go look at that. Tell me what you all think. And Jonathan McKee did almost win this other one once. Go ahead.
The Boulangerie is the bakery.
It is. Okay, good. Now we're getting to the bottom of the important stuff. It's a bakery, a baccarat. Did you say off to less expensive, more uniform in design, but 6.5 meters is kind of small. Yeah, it's 20, 21 feet. So that's going on. We're going to watch that. Starts the first leg of it, at least from France down to the Canaries, and then we'll watch the second leg as well. Okay, John, I'll go dig into the OGR, but help me out, right? Send me some links. Send me what you think the focus should be, because I've had a hard time getting excited about it with everything else we've got going on. Clark Chapin and thinking it should be the Orca leg, that first leg from France. Well, they're not going to go through the Straits of Gibraltar, so that should not be that big a problem. We have a little bit different Whiskey Tango Foxtrot today. Still on sailing, not these other non-sailing jokes. Thanks to several of you who sent these images along. This is a typical Red Bull promotion, and here we are helping to promote Red Bull. But at the Red Bull, or the Alinghi Red Bull compound, their team base in Barcelona, they had this high diving platform at the Alinghi Red Bull Racing base opening. And look at all the people. They had a big crowd, and they used the AC-75 as not a 10-meter platform. I think it was higher than that. And here are some of the images. And you can see that a big turnout.
Amazing.
And again, this is Red Bull. They're such great promoters. I don't like Red Bull. I don't like the drink. We had them as a sponsor at one point, and I drank the sugar version, and I didn't like that. I drank the sugar-free version. And it just, I don't know, it leaves, even if you drink vodka Red Bull, if you're out late at night and you're all jazzed up and you want to maybe go home and have some, some nookie or something. That's the formula is all the kids drink. They drink vodka Red Bull. But then I'm awake all night. Even after I'm done. Did I say, you can give me a finger wag, Julia?
Yes.
Huh? You can give me a finger wag. Look at a great use of the AC-75 after they're discarded by the cup.
Oh, yes.
And wait, there's more. They even had a tightrope walker between their base and the crane or something. I couldn't figure out what ends of were the ends of the tight walk. But that guy I think he just tightrope walked, and he didn't have a safety harness on. I don't think he's got a net underneath. In any event. That ends that segment. Thank God. Taurine, Taurine. Is that what the taste is in Red Bull? Is that what the stimulant is? Not caffeine. Replying to Clark Chapin, I'm just back from Northern Canada. John Lambert's Van Buren is saying, surrounded by over 100 orcas for 3 hours. No kidding. Surreal, amazing experience.
Amazing. Yeah.
Julia, that gets us to the finish line. And again, on Tuesday, we're going to concentrate on this seventh and final race, but really the whole decisive moment, but the whole series. 40 years ago, this week, in Newport, Rhode Island, next Tuesday, the 26th, on that show, we'll also have from Ed Worley his latest AC History Trivia Challenge. It's a good one, too. He's coming up with some good ones. Ed Worley is saying, after that tightrope walker, he's saying, it's official. The America's Cup is now a circus. Ed Worley have this history trivia challenge for us also on Tuesday. And by the way, Gordon Smith has been helping with James Pleasance, and we're going to have a report at the conclusion of the KDY Women's Match Race Championship on the Women's World Match Racing Tour. Gordon's been there, and he and James Pleasance have collaborated, coordinated, get some good reportage from that event at the World
Racing
Danish.
is always really good, and
that circuit's been good. That circuit has been good. That's next Tuesday, the 26th of September. And a reminder, no show on Friday because I'm going to be at the St. Francis Yacht Club Stag Cruise, otherwise occupied.
And unavailable.
It's a full-on thing from the time we go up there, at least until I get through the show on Friday night. Then I can relax on Saturday, right? So next Friday, no show. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and share. Take note of who you're not telling about this show and add them to your list.
And we're getting thousands of views, and we appreciate it. We do it for the foes. We do it for fun. And are we going to do another 650 of these shows? Get to 1,300 shows? Let's see. That's 100 shows a year.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be another 6 years, 6.5 years. Julia?
We'll be cross-eyed.
I already am. I'm silly. Okay, comments are welcome, even in replay. We leave them, those of you just watching maybe for the first time or watching a replay, you can comment. We leave them on because people are so respectful of each other. And we deeply appreciate all the FOSI and all the newcomers as well. And we appreciate especially those who give us $1 or $2 or $5 or more a month to keep us on.
Or even more.
Or even more in some people's cases.
Yeah.
Julia, thank you for all you do to keep us on the air. And join us via Patreon. Become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And as always, thank you to those who give us audio, video, and images for today's show. Julia, any final thoughts?
No, there's a lot to cover. There's lots to think about, and it's almost fun not to have to think about anything of worldly import at the moment.
Well, it's nice to have a break away from that stuff, although we all cover it because it affects our sport.
Absolutely.
I mean, the war affects our sport, inflation affects our sport, COVID affects our sport.
Yep.
And these people give us cool stuff.
They
so
do.
That we can pass it along to all of you. Final comments. Thanks, Joe Holtzman. Thank you, John Lammerts, Van Buren. Thank you, Rick Banner. Jetta, not my circus, not my clowns. Gordon Smith, thank you, sir. Yeah, the James Pleasant thing. Red Bull, Clark says, has 111 milligrams of caffeine. A cup of black coffee has about 90, so it's not that far off. Thank you, all of you. Ted Ryman, it's a shame you haven't covered there's another vote for covering the OGR. Maiden is included. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Ted. In fact, Ted maybe sent me a note or two on that, the race, and I will try to see them when they get to Cape Town. Will you do Ted, give us an interview. Give us a report. Take your phone down there. Have somebody take it down there.
Oh yes, that'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Yes.
It's always nice to have kind of the John Emmett, the Alistair. Gordon Smith's done a couple things. Rick Bannero's done some cool stuff for us. It's all Clark Chapin. It's all cool stuff. Much appreciated. Okay, everybody, thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend, wherever in the world you are. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Not Friday, no show, but we will be back Tuesday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.